What's a secret that you've been holding in that you know would ruin friendships if someone found out?
Story 1. My friend's parents got divorced because I was sleeping with both of them. Edit. I will put this here because so many people have been asking for it. It is intentionally vague to protect the guilty. Had to go out of town for a conference while in college. Decided to find a hookup. Found this guy who looked really good despite being in his late 30s. After talking to him, I found out he was married, which was fine by me, being that I was in a selfish phase. It pretty much guaranteed no strings attached. On another side, I found a woman who was about the same age and also pretty damned attractive in spite of it, who said she thought her husband was cheating on her and she was going to sleep around. Now, at that time, I was just trying to be as effed up as possible. I'm thinking, how funny would it be if the two of them were married? So I arranged to meet them on different nights while the conference was going on. I ended hooking up with both of them and patted myself on the back for being such a dirty heathen. Towards the end of the semester, one of the guys I hung out with was really bummed out, and when I asked why, I found out it was because his parents had told him they were getting divorced. I did the whole sympathetic thing and told him he would feel better soon. End of spring semester, I agreed to help him pack up his apartment. His dad shows up with a small U-Haul. Talk about the most awkward thing ever. At this point, I decided to snoop on his Facebook to see if I can find a picture of his mom. It couldn't have been her, could it? It was. So there's a story. It probably wasn't entirely my fault, but I certainly didn't help things. So, I'm not going to say that what you did was, ethical, moral, whatever. I don't think it was your fault. Clearly, there was already, problems in that marriage, and I don't think that they were going to last, or, maybe shouldn't have if they were both so willing and eager to go out and cheat. So, probably best not to share that little tidbit with your friend. Story 2. My husband's friend, who is married, tries to corner me alone every time we see them. I'm afraid of him. Edit. Thanks for the support. I'm going to tell my husband. I honestly didn't think of any danger other than he may grope me, but you are all right. He has physically prevented me from getting away from him and laughed while doing it. 1 a.m., not going to worry about their friendship or this guy's wife. If she is in trouble with him, she knows where I am. Edit 2 for update. So, as not to lose my nerve, I told my husband today after work. At first he said, he was just messing around. But when I gave him details, he said no one would treat me like that and he would deal with it. I got him to cool down a little and asked him not to get into a fight, and he went over to the guy's house. Husband's report to me was that guy tried to play it off, that I was overreacting, he must have been drinking. Then he said that I must have been coming on to him. That's when husband hit him. There was no fight, it was one punch, and guy was down. Husband told me he was done with guy and he has orders to never be around me again. In the many years we've been married, I've never seen husband get physical. Apparently he's good at it. Ice has been on his hand pretty much all night, and no police have come to the door. I've decided if anyone asks what the problem is with the two men, I'll tell them the truth. I may not be the only one. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, no, I'm known for not being one to go physical violence, but I definitely think you did the right thing by telling someone, and yeah, even if nothing had happened, it sounds like the extent that he was going to, you needed to be concerned, and I'm glad that you were, and I hope things all turn out for the best. Except for that guy.
Story 3. My mother found her husband's brother dead one morning. She had to call 911, keep her husband from completely losing it, call his mother, call 911 again because his mother started hyperventilating while driving and needed oxygen, and kept the brother's crazy ex-girlfriend from going in the house. They said it looked like he had a heart attack, but asked who to contact when they had a definite answer. My mom was the only one emotionally competent enough at the time to understand what was going on, so she volunteered. He had been an H addict for years, but after a serious accident, he detoxed and was almost a year clean. The cause of death was overdose. My mother went to his apartment, rummaged through the entire thing, and found all his needles, etc., and tossed them before anyone found them while cleaning things out. He had been ostracized from the family for years. Everyone was so happy to have him back and healthy. My mom couldn't bear to tell them what really happened. She told me years after. I'm still the only other person who knows. Story 4. Abstract. A friend of mine fakes being British. I've known this guy for years, and we met while working for the same company. It all started as a joke during our training class for work. He asked me not to say anything and to play along. I obliged, thinking it would be fun to mess with people. The problem is, we met some really cool people that would later become some of our closest friends. He was so deep into his British persona, he couldn't risk breaking character. What's worse, he started to buy his own cover and even went as far as to get English-related tattoos. Best moment ever was when he met a real Brit, and I watched him sweat himself into a babbling river of bullcrap.
So when I was younger, I used to fake accents sometimes, not terribly often, but I do know when I was, I think 16 or 17, I was visiting the Twin Cities here in Minnesota from my home way up north, and I needed to get on a bus and everything, and so to talk to a lady to figure out the bus system, I pretended to be Australian. And then she just so happened to be getting on the same bus. And as we got in and sat down, she saw friends on the bus and told them, "Ooh, he's from Australia." And they all started asking me questions about Australia. And I'm sitting there like, "Oh, yeah, mate. That's a pretty great place and everything, you know. I live a ways outside of Perth. You familiar with Perth?" "Oh, no, you're not?" "Oh, that's great."
Story 5. Several friends of mine have cheated on their significant others of long-term relationships. Effing pees me off to see them so happy together, me knowing what happened, and me who has never cheated on anyone in my life sitting there single as the third wheel most of the time. Alas, the double-edged sword is if I ever said anything, I'd lose both as friends, so I just keep my mouth shut. Story 6. That GMO labeling bill they're having an AMA about right now, my friend helped get it passed. She worked incredibly hard on it for months. We're talking 70 to 80 hours a week, and she obviously believes passionately in it. I think GMOs are perfectly safe and necessary to continue increasing food production as the population expands. More practically, I think all the money they spent getting it passed and the millions of dollars the state of Vermont is going to wind up paying in legal fees defending it would be better used pretty much anywhere else. I also don't think it has a snowball's chance in hell of actually being upheld. I just smile and nod whenever she talks about it. Story 7. I lied to my friend about a tattoo he has. Back when I was in college, I met this guy at a party who really wanted to tattoo Asian words on his arm. Knowing that I'm Asian, Chinese, he asked me to pick the words for him. We were both a little drunk, so I gave him the words, "I am chicken" in Chinese. The character chicken also stands for hooker in Chinese. I told him it means the true ancient warrior in Chinese. He believed me and tattooed it on his arms. I haven't talked to him after college. Not sure if he figured it out yet.
Folks, I'm just going to tell you that if you're going to get a tattoo that's in a different language, you should be able to at least partially speak that language. Don't just get a tattoo in a foreign language and a foreign script because you think it's neat. Know it. Have it be meaningful to you in some way. I mean, it's your body. Get whatever tattoo you want. I'm not the king of tattoos. I got one tattoo right here. And, would you all like to see? I did just a little, Maybe I'll show y'all if we get to 500,000 subscribers or something. I don't know.
Story 8. My high school crush had her boyfriend and my name right next to each other in her phone and would often text me naked pictures of herself and wouldn't notice until I said something back to her. By the time she finally learned, I had about 30 to 40 pictures of her. We were really close friends, so we were able to laugh about it in private, but that would ruin the relationship if he knew she did that multiple times. Story 9. My best friend's girlfriend has a penis. I don't know the specifics, but she is something like 1.5 million people have both sets of genitalia. She takes hormones to keep being essentially female, so it's largely useless and just kind of hangs there. I put my mouth on it once, not sure if I'm proud of that. Anyway, it's a secret because his parents are very, let's say, conservative, and nearly kicked him out at 15 because they suspected he was gay. He wasn't gay, he just wore nice shirts. Anyway, he's 20 now, so it's less of a risk to let this information out, but they might not let him go home from uni for summer if they were to know this fact. Story 10. As the username implies, I have a omorashi fetish and have had it for as long as I can remember. For those who don't know, omorashi is a fetish with a variety of focuses. However, the most basic definition is that omorashi is when you get aroused either by you or another individual experiencing a full bladder and becoming desperate before eventually wetting themselves. A lot of people tend to confuse omorashi with golden showers or ABDL. However, omorashi is quite different. For example, nudity and physical contact are not typical in omorashi content. Often models are fully clothed, and the best content features either real individuals or actors/actresses who are caught in a very desperate and public situation where they need to pee but for some reason are not able to. Eventually, the individual ends up having an embarrassing accident in their clothing. For some people with this fetish, the pleasure can derive from the desperation, humiliation, the sight of the wet clothing, the knowledge that a wetting accident is a major taboo, or a mixture of all of these things. Story 11. I have this friend. The guy's kind of a douche. We don't really talk anymore, not even sure I still consider him a friend. Anyway, he was notorious in our friend group for trying to steal his friends' girlfriends. It wasn't that he was trying to sleep with them and run away, it was more that he would fall in love with any girl who would talk to him. He never had a girlfriend himself until he was 22. The guy was painfully shy around girls and condescending to his friends. He would often give us dating advice and relationship advice when he'd never had either. Naturally, when one of us would get a girlfriend, he would have to interact with them and would very quickly fall in love. This led to him doing some pretty scummy things like tricking partners into dates and even going as far as to phone my friend's girlfriend up and tell her that he loved her for who she really was and not just her body like my friend did. He did eventually get his own girlfriend that he never stole from anyone. She was an American girl who was only going to be in the country for like 3 more months. He became a huge butthole during this time, talking about how none of us knew what real love was and how he was the only guy she ever wanted. The secret I've been keeping is that the very same girl he bragged about nonstop asked me out 3 times and I turned her away because I didn't want to get into a relationship with someone who was leaving. She told me she'd date one of my friends as revenge. Still to this day, I have not told him. Although, seeing the written down, I don't know why the guy is a D.
Yeah, I gotta say, you're like, still to this day, I haven't told him. And I'm like, why? The guy sounds like the worst. I mean, I guess I get it. Even with people that I am just not a fan of at all, I still won't go out of my way to try and make them like feel crappy about stuff. I just don't talk to them. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless you're still like actively hanging out with this person frequently and still don't like them, then just stop doing that maybe.
Story 12. I wasn't going to post, but since almost every single confession is about intercourse, I decided that I would share. When I was younger, I had an amazing Siberian husky named Monk. I loved that dog. He's still very near and dear to my heart. Some effing prickface ran over my dog, and instead of coming into my house and letting me and my mom take him to the vet, left him on the side of the road to die. I saw it when I got up for school, bawled for weeks. Well, I found the effer, word of mouth at my school. I was 7. I made a Molotov cocktail. I had access to the anarchist cookbook, snuck out one night, smashed the window of the van that killed my dog, lit the cocktail, and threw it. I've never been caught, and I really don't regret it all that much. Pretty sure that would scare everyone away. Too long didn't read. I'm a psychopath. Don't kill my dog. Story 13. Most of my friends and myself hate our friend's girlfriend. She's pee-whipped him hardcore, and he's one of those guys who's too nice to stand up for himself. His family is below the poverty line, and when she goes to his house, she's constantly eating and drinking everything there. His parents hate her, especially when she's over. She never lets him hang out with us unless she's there, and we have to do everything she wants, otherwise she starts crabbing. She's unhygienic to the point where dirt literally crusts on the back of her neck, and it's not like she's poor either. She's in a good house with running water, and they always have food at her place. She's also constantly taking his phone and keeping it for days on end. My friend's mom can't reach him, so she panics and starts calling the rest of us to see where he is. The worst thing is that if we tried to talk to him about her, he'd side completely with her because he thinks he can't get anyone better. 2 of my friends tried before, and she made him stop talking to them until they apologized. Story 14. In high school, I knew my best friend's parents were getting divorced long before he did. His mom told my mom, who told me. I kept it secret out of loyalty to my mom. I had to watch as he slowly put together the pieces. Meanwhile, I already knew all the gory details. He never found out how much I knew, and our friendship ended up falling apart for a different reason. Edit. Some elaboration. My mom only told me after I promised not to tell my friend. I knew something was going on, and she would have had to me if she didn't tell me the truth. Honestly, I would have been upset if she hadn't told me, and I later found out. My friend eventually learned bits and pieces of what was going on. I did my best to comfort my friend without admitting I knew as much as I did. My parents had divorced a couple years earlier, although the circumstances were very different, but I knew what he was going through. There were times when I almost broke, but in hindsight, I think it's better I didn't, because I would have made my friend even more resentful and angry towards his parents, although I'm not sure if he ever learned the entire story. Story 15. I'm embarrassed to admit this even on here. I slept with my good friend's wife on several occasions. It started with simple flirting when nobody, including my now ex-wife, was around. The flirting soon turned to touching, kissing, etc. Next thing you know, we were sneaking around, screwing like rabbits whenever we could get away from our partners. It got so out of hand, we even had intercourse in my own bathroom after a night of drinking on a double date with them both in the other room. I know I'm sick, and so is she. I once even received a hand job while drinking and playing poker with my friend and my wife right at the poker table. Once she became pregnant with my friend's child, the child was later tested for paternity. I thought it would stop. The opposite actually happened. We had intercourse more during her pregnancy than ever before. Looking back, I'm ashamed of my actions, but at the time, it was such a rush knowing I could have her at any time. It ended when he thought he caught her cheating with someone else, when in reality it was me he was caught screwing his wife. He, to this day, doesn't know about it. He's now happily married to another woman. His ex-wife still contacts me on occasion through Facebook, looking to meet up.
Yeah, I gotta say, it sounds like, well, it's now your ex-wife. I guess you've both, kind of parted ways and everything, so... it doesn't sound like either of you had the strongest marriages to begin with, and it's not the best. I will say, I hope that you're open and honest with your current wife, who you're happily married with, It's, even though it's something that you're certainly not proud of, I've been open with my partner about crappy things I did in the past. She's been open with me, so... I don't know. I hope you're in that place and that you're not tempted through these Facebook messages. Ugh.
Story 16. None of my friends know that I pulled the plug on my father, who was in a coma when I was 13. Everyone was for both letting him stay on the tubes and letting him go. I was the deciding factor. And my mother is in a home for old people because she has early onset dementia because of her excessive drinking. But I just tell my friends that my parents moved out of state. Last time I spoke to a therapist, he told me my odds of maintaining a successful relationship with a girl was slim to none. It's fine if none of you believe me, it's just that I needed to let it out one more time. I don't tell people in the fear that it will give the impression that I have a lot of baggage. Story 17. My best friend has been cheating on her unknowing husband of 2 years with my boyfriend's best friend for the past year. They just bought a small condo together and have been together for over 10 years since she was 19. She doesn't know that I know, but he told me the whole story. I just wish she wouldn't be so afraid to admit her marriage is down the toilet. She's already crossed the line, there's no going back now. It's more difficult what she's going through now than it is the actual divorce. My friend feels like she owes it to her husband to stay, given all that they've been through and time together. Story 18. My boyfriend's brother tries to sleep with me every time he's drunk. If my boyfriend found out, I'm pretty sure he would rip their family apart because I've seen them get into legitimate fistfights over cheese. Also, my dad is sleeping with the hostess at his job. He doesn't know that I know, but I do.
I don't know. I feel like that's something that maybe needs to get out in the open, because if that keeps happening over the years, and then it's found out that it's been going on that long. I mean, I feel like every time it happens and you don't say anything, the eventual consequences are just going to get worse and worse. Way worse than that time that they were fighting over the last piece of the bourbon barrel smoked Gouda. Ooh, that would be a rough fight with me, I'll tell you that much.
Story 19. My friend forgot his Game Boy at my place. He thought he simply misplaced it. I let him believe that. I was too hooked onto Pokemon Yellow to let him take it back. After I finished that game, I just couldn't give it back to him, so I lent him my new Game Boy Advance with Pokemon Sapphire to play. He misplaced this one for real. I deserved it. Karma is real, guys. Story 20. I stole my best friend's Charizard back in 2nd grade. Only thing I ever stole from a friend, and I felt terrible about it. It wouldn't ruin our friendship now, most likely, but stealing a hollow Charizard then is on par with keying his brand new car while finger banging his mom now.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.